Hi, my name is Darren Joseph from HGJ.tax, and we're the team that seeks to demystify a sometimes confusing world of international tax. And today I want to talk about a so-called shift to the trust-first economy. I actually disagree with that statement, and here's why. I'm going to make 3 points. The first is, I think it's in 1972, Kenneth Arrow won a Nobel Prize. And among the points that he made is that every economic transaction has an element of trust. So this is not new. This is old stuff, right? The second point is, clearly, global trust levels are in decline. And that is, you can see that being discussed in so many forums. Most recently, I saw it on the World Economic Forum website. This was last month. There was an article by Ivan Shkvarun. I think it was last month. But anyway, as a tax professional, I mean, we see it in two areas. And we see it in terms of between the governments and the governed. There's a rise of supranational surveillance, and that's supra with a PRA. National surveillance in the form of the big exchange of information agreements, namely FATCA from 2010 and CRS from 2014, and upcoming CARF, and there are a whole bunch of others as well. So following up from that, we also have at the micro level, so between individuals and between individuals and companies and so on, there's a decline in trust there as well. There was an article in Time magazine in September last year, aptly entitled, "Welcome to the Golden Age of Scams." You know, it is what it is, right? And there are loads of stats from the Federal Trade Commission, tens of billions, and it's year-on-year increases, the trend. And then understanding that as many as 75% of those who are victims of fraud, they don't report it. So those numbers are potentially hugely understated. So I would say that we are at an all-time low when it comes to trust. So that's the main story, that trust levels are in serious decline and that we could be at an all-time low. So let me make the third point, which is when it comes to service providers like myself in the tax or the wealth management space, what we're seeing right now is a rise of, I guess, the tax entertainment industry. I mentioned in an article that I wrote recently that last year, YouTuber John Anthony Castro was sentenced, I think, to 15 years in jail. And he was a popular YouTuber and talking about international tax in general, but in particular, the nuances of tax between the US and Australia. He made a name for himself. And unfortunately, he obviously wasn't doing the right thing. He was misrepresenting a lot of stuff. But anyway, and then annually, the IRS comes up with dirty dozen scams, many of which are promoted on social media. So in short, again, I disagree with the statement. Trust has always been a thing. What we have right now is because we're in the age of social media, you have situations where influencers in the tax space who may not have any qualifications. They may actually be high school dropouts. They live in emerging markets where there's no regulation, and they portray this lifestyle of luxury, whether it's private jets or supercars, or they're in swimsuits or whatever the case may be. They engender trust in those that follow them. And unfortunately, there are cases where they abuse that trust. And that's the point, that trust is at an all-time low, and it's made possible in a way that was not previously possible because of social media. That's my point. Thank you.